now anyway to Catherine, who's a trainer in English language and intercultural communication skills at the school. And also her colleague at Jay Burns is also here too to answer any questions. I'll hand over to you now, Catherine.
Thank you. I'll just share my screen. Okay, so I hope everyone can see this. So thanks for the introduction, Hannah. Just a few words about me. I'm an English language trainer in the London School of English. I've been teaching for about 16 years, mainly in London, but also in Paris, where I lived for 5 years, teaching business and professional and general English, ranging from making presentations, carrying out meetings, taking part in negotiations, all the way down to small talk and conversations about the weather. So I also focus a lot on intercultural communication skills and how we need to incorporate intercultural understanding more and more into our work. So I'm looking at our working life online because of the changes recently, and what are these implications for language and intercultural communication when we're working online. So first of all, I'm going to have a look at the intercultural considerations, communication skills, and what we can do to help ourselves. And also to look at language use. How do we use our English that we already have, and how do we develop our English further to use in an online environment? And I'll talk a little bit about the London School as well. And then hopefully if you have any questions, then we can talk about those at the end. So let's make a start. How do we act and react when we're faced with cultural behaviours and working practices that are different from our own? Increasingly, we are working in multinational companies or globalised companies. We have partners in other countries. So very often our colleagues, team members, managers may be living and working in other countries, and they may be from other countries, and their way of working and their cultural baggage, if you like, is different from ours. So we need to adjust the way we work, the way we talk, to accommodate this. Recently, within the last couple of months, for obvious reasons, a lot of us have had to change our way of thinking about the way that we work and about the way that we communicate. And overnight, in some cases, particularly in my school, our work went online. And a lot of you will have experienced the same thing, moving meetings and communications from a face-to-face in a meeting room situation to now meeting through an online platform such as Zoom. And this has forced us to examine very deeply how we think and how we speak and how we communicate with other people. So this is something we're going to have a look at in more detail. So what we need to remember is that effective communication increases as barriers to communication are broken down. So how do we do this? There are several steps to take, really, that I want to have a look at. It's very easy for us to say, I don't do that. I don't do it like that. That's wrong. But why is somebody else's culture and somebody else's way of behaving wrong when yours is right? Who is right and wrong? Try not to measure another culture and another behavior in your team, in your meeting, by your own standards. They're both right, they're just different. And this is an adjustment often that we have to make in our head when we're dealing with other people from other countries. There needs to be a balance and compromise, a strong need to avoid alienation. If you're in a meeting online with a group of people in other countries, it's not a good thing to be the one who feels different, or that your ways of working or practicing are strange. There needs to be a balance between your culture and somebody else's culture or cultures around the table, and to find a compromise, to include how you work and how they work, to balance them up so that everybody feels a sense of comfort and a sense of logic as well in the way that they're working. So this takes a sense of personal adjustment, which we're going to have a look at later. So some points to consider when working with multicultural teams. This is in a general sense, person to person, but more specifically online, because when you're working online, everything is exaggerated, everything from facial expression to the way that you're sitting and the way that you're behaving with somebody. So level of understanding of other cultures. If you are working with a team consisting of people from other companies in other countries, try to find out a little bit about other cultures, do some research, Google other cultures, speak to people that you might know from those countries and from those cultures to increase your own understanding of how people live and behave and work. And once you have that information, you might have to think, okay, so how can I incorporate that? How can I accept that into how I work? How does it fit side by side with the way that I work in a professional environment? And how in meetings and when speaking to people online, can I incorporate this to make other people feel more comfortable? And this is a long-term thing. A lot of people will carry on this online working after this crisis has passed as a new way of working. So this acceptance of something new and different is a long-term practice. It's a long-term understanding and will lead to better long-term cooperation and conversation. Involvement through conversation, through networking and cooperation with other people, whether it's online on Zoom or Skype, whether it's through speaking on the phone, whether it's through email. By networking, finding out more about people, and the practice of working together and cooperating on a regular basis, this understanding will increase, the effective communication will increase, and the barriers will decrease. And one thing I recommend, clear communication strategies. Before working online with a team, whether you are the chairperson of the meeting or whether you're a meeting participant, try to find some clear communication strategies, whether it's an agenda to stick to or at least some points of conversation, some points for discussion, and try to create a clear communication strategy so that everybody's on the same page and everybody knows what is expected in that meeting. And this will help online communication with other cultures it'll make it much easier. Okay, some challenges to think about working online. When we work online, our universe narrows down to a screen and to small squares on a screen. And the faces that look at you on that screen are all you have, it's your only reference. So there are lots of different things to think about from your side, but also from other people. The first is body language and gesture. So as a teacher, I know that I use my hands all the time to exaggerate what I'm saying or to explain or to make a point. I also know from teaching and working with Spanish people that body language and gesture is a very important part of the way that you speak as well. And how close you stand to people is an indication of the level of relationship and other aspects like this. All of this disappears on a computer screen. So how do you portray, how do you put forward your body language and your gesture? This is all done through face and voice. And you can tell a lot about face and voice. So facial expression is very important. Are you listening? Are you engaged, looking at the camera or looking at the screen? Are you looking over here, maybe writing something down so that all people can see at the top is the top of your head? Are you looking at your phone? Maybe you can see the top of somebody's phone. So this body language and gesture is a very important way of involving yourself in the meeting and also finding out who else is involved at that point. Turn taking. In a face-to-face meeting, when everybody is in the same room, people interrupt and talk over each other. People turn to the person next to them to speak, to have a sub-conversation. In an online meeting, this can't happen because it just is one move into chaos where everybody is talking at once. Turn taking means to make sure that one person has finished speaking before the next person starts speaking. In some cultures, European cultures, this is quite difficult because we like to interrupt and we like to make our point, but it's more about waiting and making sure that you've heard everything you need to hear from the other person before starting to speak. And on Zoom, you've got the little hand signal that you can use. You can make some kind of gesture like this that you want to speak. And it's a question of waiting for the other person to finish instead of interrupting. This leads directly to manners and politeness, which are, of course, important in any moment, person to person or on a screen. But these are exaggerated on the screen. And again, it's a question of wanting other people to feel comfortable, to feel accepted, and to feel respected as well. So good manners and politeness as far as possible at all moments in a meeting will make the meeting flow more smoothly and be more comfortable for everybody. Observation, as the chairperson of the meeting or even as a participant, it's a good idea to observe other people, especially if the meeting is in English, so you have to pay close attention to language, which we'll look at in a moment. But how are people behaving in the meeting? And this is a good way when people are speaking, but also more importantly, when people are not speaking, how are they engaged in the meeting? And you can learn a lot from somebody by observing the way they behave. And this leads directly to personality characteristics. Everybody has a different personality, and in a meeting you'll have many different personality characteristics connected to their language, to their culture, and to their own personality. You might have somebody who's a very dominant, loud person, who likes to speak a lot, who likes to make a point. So how do you control their level of input when you have somebody else who's a very quiet, very shy person who might sit there for 1 hour or 2 hours saying absolutely nothing, but just listening? So as the chairperson, again, how do you bring in that person to become involved, to hear what they have to say? And this way, turn taking is very important. And also nominating, which we're going to look at in a moment, which means calling people by name. Catherine, what do you want to say? Hannah, can I hear your opinion? So that you're bringing people into the meeting and you're accommodating the different personalities by asking the noisier person to give time to the quieter people to speak and to give their opinion. The next 3 points are slightly different, but also equally important. Hierarchy and delegation are directly connected to intercultural considerations and communication. In Northern Europe, for example, we operate in most companies, we operate quite a flat hierarchy. People are allowed to work independently, autonomously, teams run teams themselves, and there are weekly maybe check-ins, conversations, online meetings to find out what's going on. There might be other countries, and I know Spain is one of these, that traditionally have quite a strict, inflexible hierarchy system. Things are changing in Spain, and younger companies and younger people coming through are becoming more flexible with the hierarchical tradition, and more autonomy and more independence is coming through. But if you do work for a company with a strong hierarchy, how do you accommodate somebody from Sweden, for example, who is used to working independently? They don't have to report to anyone, they meet their deadline and they do their work. How do you accommodate that person in your strict hierarchy? One of the best things to do is to offer responsibility and to offer independence so that they can work by themselves, and check in online with the weekly meetings or the monthly meetings so that they feel they have the independence that they need, but then they are reporting into the hierarchy. And in a reverse way, if you're Spanish and you're used to a more traditional hierarchy or a changing hierarchy, how do you adapt when you perhaps come to live and work in the UK or other countries, America, for example, where the hierarchy system is very different? If you feel a little bit unsupported, a little bit open, and you don't have the kind of structure that you're used to, ask for it. Ask for a work partner, somebody that you can work beside or report to. Ask for mentorship, somebody that you can call into every now and again, so that you feel you have a structure around you and you feel you have the support of a hierarchy around you. And this is perfectly acceptable to do. The same with problem solving. Many companies, for example, in Germany and Sweden, in the UK, the meeting structure, an online meeting structure, because of the online nature, we'd have a very strict agenda. You meet the points of your agenda, you make the decisions, you solve the problems, and then the meeting ends. In some countries, for example, in Southern European countries, the meeting is more about discussing the situation, discussing the problem, but then the problem is solved or the decision is made elsewhere at another time. So again, recognizing and understanding how different people in your meeting might work is a big step towards working successfully in an intercultural situation. The same with something like punctuality. Germans, Swedish people, very, very punctual. They arrive on the dot. British can be a little bit flexible depending on the company. But again, Spanish people, perhaps 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. The meeting begins with a lot of small talk, conversation. How are you? This is very, very important to a Southern European culture. In a Northern European culture, in an American culture, it's get to the message, get the meeting, and maybe talk afterwards. So how can you incorporate your own working practices and your own behaviors into this where everybody feels comfortable? I've added age and gender roles because as countries, as cultures, we are very different even from our close neighbours, and age and gender come into this. Think about the appropriateness of a team that you're setting up or a team that you're working in. Is it appropriate for a female team leader when the team is all men, for example, in a culture where women are perhaps still not taken so seriously in the business environment? Is it appropriate to have an older team leader with a young team, or a young team leader with an older team? What frame of reference can they work in? What frame of reference are they comfortable working in? So think about the cultural appropriateness of age and gender within your company, within your team, especially when you're working online, because of the limitations of communication online may be exaggerated and exacerbated when age and gender are added into the mix. So that's just some things to think about in an intercultural situation. I'd like to look now at English language. I don't want to focus so much on learning language at this moment, but more about using what you have. As an English teacher, I hear this sentence every week. My English is terrible. My English is awful. I don't speak any English. And this is almost always not true. So have confidence, first of all, in your English, whatever level you have. The next thing is to look at your expectations, to manage your expectations. In your mother tongue, for example, in Spanish, you're educated, you're intelligent, you're articulate. You've had a lifetime of practice. You know what you want to say. You know how to say it. You have the grammar. You have the diversity of vocabulary. You're fine. When we turn to a second language, in this case, English, we seem to put the same expectation on ourselves, that we expect our English to be the same level as our first language, as our mother tongue. And this can often lead to disappointment, frustration, and sometimes blockage, where people stop speaking altogether. Try to manage your expectation of your English. It will not be the same as your mother tongue. You will not have the same diversity of vocabulary or the same complexity of grammar, and this is okay. But recognize that the two will be different and address them separately, and try not to compare your English with your mother tongue, because they will never compare to each other. And always ask for more. In our own language, we are always saying, pardon, sorry, say that again, what did you say? And this is completely normal. But again, when we're speaking in English, this is seen as a moment of weakness. I'm asking because I didn't understand, or he speaks too well and I speak so badly. This is not true. In our own language, it's completely natural to ask for more information. So never be afraid to ask for clarification. What number was that? Can you say that again? Was that hotmail.com or .co.uk? Check detail. Ask for an explanation or ask for more information. It's not a sign of weakness, it's just a sign of needing more information. And these three are the biggest barriers to working in English. So I'm going to look at the 3 C's. The first one is clarity, comfort, and confidence. And these 3 rules, if you like, really help you to develop your English and understand where you are right now. So clarity is to be clear. If you are leading a meeting, if you're making a presentation online, if you're discussing with a group of people, know what you want to say, make notes. I do all the time. Make notes, learn them, use them, know what you want to say, practice in advance if you can. And this will really help you speak more clearly and be more comfortable with what you say. Keywords and phrases. I'm sure we have people from banking, from travel and tourism, from law. In your own industry, you'll have set words and phrases that you use all the time in English and in your own language. Learn the English keywords, learn the phrases that come up again and again, use them, practice them, and adopt them into your communication practices every day. This will enhance the level of your English, make your communication easier for people to understand. And it's more logical, it makes sense within talking about your industry. Logic is there a progression to what you want to say? Are you talking different chaotic ideas, or is there a progression or a linear form? And this helps you speak more fluently. KISS. This stands for keep it short and simple. In your own language, you are able to manipulate grammar and vocabulary so that you have complex sentences and elaborate paragraphs. In English, keep it simple. You don't need complex grammar. Use vocabulary that you understand and you're comfortable with, and that other people are comfortable with. But you don't need long, elaborate sentences, especially in an online environment, which is a much narrower environment than the face-to-face situation. Also, idioms and expressions. I don't know if we have any native speakers who use idioms and expressions all the time. Also, in Spanish, some expressions that we have in English translate directly, so you understand them. But try to limit your use of idioms and expressions and keep the language simple and straightforward. This is helpful for everybody in a meeting, because all we have is the voice, and we don't want to hinder or to bring back people's understanding. We want people to understand as much as possible. So comfort. This is your own comfort, but also the comfort of everybody else in the meeting or in the group. So participants' language levels. If you are speaking, if you're giving a presentation, if you're speaking in a meeting, you don't want to think about the British person or the American person who might be listening. You want to think about your English for the person in the room who is worried that they won't understand you, and they're terrified that the meeting will happen and they don't know what's happening. So you address your language, you address your speech to the person in the room with the lowest level of English. So the most simple, most logical keywords and phrases, basic language that you want that person to understand. If they understand you, the British, the American, everybody else, they will understand you. So it's important to anticipate everybody's language levels and to accommodate everybody in the meeting. This is particularly important online because we want people to remain engaged, involved in the meeting, and they won't be engaged and involved if they don't understand what's happening. So think about everybody's language levels. Speed of speech. Spanish people speak very, very quickly in Spanish, and every learner in English of any nationality try to maintain their speed from their own language in English. And again, this is something I see every week. There's no need, it's not a competition. Slow down. If you slow down what you're saying in English, pronunciation is easier, particularly of complex words. You can take more time. You can think through the sentence before you speak it. And any complicated words come out better. They are better pronounced because you've taken more time. So think about your speed. You don't need the speed that you use in Spanish when you're speaking English. It's not necessary, and it gives you the opportunity to speak more clearly. Listen to others the same, listen to the speed that they speak. Perhaps you can learn pronunciation of complex words and you can copy that, but just listening to others obviously helps progression of the meeting and helps your own understanding of what's happening. Nominating speakers, I touched on this earlier with turn taking. In an online meeting, it's much better to call by name the person that you want to speak. If you're leading the meeting, this is a good way to make sure that everybody speaks, that everybody's involved, but also it avoids interruption, speaking over people, and also difficult silences when nobody is speaking because nobody wants to jump in. So by using people's names, Joe, can you tell me what you think? Catherine, Hannah, I want you to try practicing this in meetings, using people's names to bring people in to speak as you can. And check details. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If somebody is speaking, ask them why, how, when. Can you say that again? This is a way to make sure online you've received all the information that you need and that you need to move forward with the project when you're not in a meeting online with everybody. And remember, it's not a sign of weakness, it's about learning more information. Never be afraid to ask questions in a meeting. If you ask a question, you can guarantee that there'll be someone else in the room who is happy that you've asked that question because they want that information too. And just remember that it's an important one to remember. And finally, we look at confidence. Build your vocabulary. Again, I often hear people say, I don't have the vocabulary, I don't know the words. Building your vocabulary by reading magazines, even magazines connected with your own industry so that you can build on that vocabulary. Watch TV, watch movies. Use subtitles if you need to, but use subtitles in English because that way you're reading and listening to the same language. And this will help build your vocabulary because you can associate the word you read and the word you see, the word you hear rather. Listen to the radio, listen to podcasts. Any opportunity to use English will build your vocabulary and build your confidence. As adults, we left school a few years ago. English is no longer an academic subject that we must study and pass exams at school. English is now a life skill, and as a result, I feel it's a lot more positive, a positive way of looking at something than an academic subject. Use English, don't practice English. Become accustomed to speaking in meetings, to using all the different resources available in English, and think of it as a positive sense, as something that you carry through your life, improving as you go. Think of English as a sport. For example, if you decide to run a marathon, you start small, you train, you go running, you build up your muscles, and finally, you're good enough to run a marathon. And learning a language is the same idea. You start small, you build up and build up. And as you build up, your confidence grows. And create opportunities. Meet people, speak to people online at the moment is a perfect way. Small meetings, breakout meetings. You can have catch up on Skype or catch up on Zoom with friends or with colleagues to practice English, as well as finding out more about their cultural behaviors, their cultural habits. And you can combine all of this by working within the framework of an online platform. Create your own opportunities. And as you do this, your confidence will grow. And whatever your level of language, you will acquire new vocabulary and new skills as you go forward and take this opportunity to deal with people online, to meet the needs of your own language and your own culture by finding out more about others. Okay, so just in summary, some key phrases to summarize what I've talked about. Breaking down barriers by finding out more about who you're going to be working with and how they work. Find the balance, find the compromise where everybody is happy, everybody feels comfortable, and nobody is alienated or made to feel different or strange. The compromise in culture, how to adopt all cultures into a working environment. Research and conversation, speak to people, speak to your colleagues, speak to people who might know these cultures, speak to people who live there or worked there. And accept the new, recognize that this is a long-term shift, it's a long-term change. This movement online could quite possibly be a permanent option within your working life. And the more that you accept the differences and the changes, the easier it will become. And with this, increased cooperation, communication, make clear strategies, have a good agenda, know your expectations of other people and of yourself within a meeting environment, and use those structures to help you. And within language, clarity, ask for information, take turns in speaking, comfort, make sure everybody understand that levels of English in a meeting might be different and you need to accommodate that. And confidence, build on your English, take the opportunity to speak to people, to find out more, to use English online, watch films, watch Netflix, read books, take the opportunity to build your confidence by building your English. Okay. So to finish, I'd just like to talk very quickly about the school that I work for. This is the London School of English. It's over 100 years old. There are 3 centres in the UK, and it's ranked as the top English school in the UK from a recent inspection, and we have excellent reviews online as well. We have small classes, all of which at the moment are being offered online, and very highly qualified and experienced trainers who've not only lived and worked abroad, but they have a high level of intercultural competence and language learning skills too. All the courses are specialised and bespoke. This is an example of the kind of courses that we're offering at the moment online, and in the future face-to-face as well. So ranging from business and professional to general, legal, HR, and also intercultural training and leadership as well. And Jo Burns, my colleague, the Director of Sales and Marketing, is online. So if you have any questions of this sort, then please do ask. Thank you for your interest. I hope you've found it useful. And I'm going to hand back to Hannah now, but if you have any questions, please do ask.
Thank you so much, Catherine. That was really, really interesting, and obviously, yeah, so relevant at the moment. Okay, yeah, we've got a few questions that have come in from the participants. One of them is, how important do you think it is that companies are currently, setting aside training of this kind for their staff, particularly if they work in international environments?
How important? Oh, sorry.
So I'll take this one if you don't mind.
No, go for it.
I do a lot of consultation with a lot of companies asking about their employees' training needs. And I think in the situation in which we find ourselves now, the ease of communication for teams is even more important than ever. I think one of the key things that companies are going to be doing over the next couple of years is investing in the skills of their teams. And making sure that their teams are in turn as effective as they can be in any situation that they find themselves. You know, this is still going to continue to be a globalized environment, and English is still, Brexit aside, is still the global lingua franca of business. So I think whether it is about English language itself, or whether it's about soft skills such as negotiation or professional email writing, or report writing, or how to present data, and all of these other modules that we do for professional clients of ours, I think it's just going to become increasingly important that people are representing their companies as best they can.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. Another question that we've had asked is that you've spoken about all the different kind of characteristics that different nationalities, but what do you think are the principal characteristics that all or the majority of different cultural styles have in common?
Catherine, that's one for you.
The one for me. What cultural characteristics do we all have in common? I think conversation, communication. Everybody likes to talk. And I think that at the moment, people are very comfortable talking with people in their own cultures, obviously, because we all understand each other. We share the language and we share the cultural behaviors. But I think what's interesting for me, I work in this environment, but more and more in business as well, is this need for communication, conversation with other people from other countries and from other cultures. It's fascinating. You learn a lot about other people and also about yourself and how you interpret things and how you behave with different people as you find out about new cultures. So conversation and communication, I think, is what we all have in common. We all love a good chat.
Okay, great, thanks. We've also had a couple of questions about the school. So someone has said that I've had a look on your website for some English classes and your prices seem much higher than on some other schools, for some other schools in London and here in Spain. Why are the classes at the London School of English so expensive?
Well, you get what you pay for. I'm afraid that's the short answer.
Put simply.
Basically, yes. So I would say, as Catherine already mentioned, we are the highest rated English language school group in the UK in terms of quality, according to the British Council, who inspect us all. So we are the best at what we do. Our trainers are more highly qualified than at most schools. They all have the qualification that most directors of studies have, rather than just teachers. So they are very highly qualified. When it comes to English for business and specific purposes, a lot of them also have professional backgrounds, professional qualifications in law and in finance and accountancy and things like this. So actually they have very relevant information that they can bring to a client's learning experience. And also we take only small groups. So a lot of schools actually do larger groups of 15 or 20 in their class. Ours are 6 to 8 people. And I would actually say also, we were rated in the top 3 of best value in London of language schools last year by the English Language Gazette. They did a survey, actually January, I think it was, of all language schools in London, and they actually found that we presented the best value for money. We include things like needs analysis, certificate, make sure that everybody has thorough level testing. We give you access to our online self-study platform as well, which has another 150 hours of content for 3 months after a course. So there are other things that are included that people find of high value.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks. Another question we've had from another attendee is, what is the biggest difference between physical meeting and a virtual meeting in terms of communication? Is there one key thing for us to take away about that we shouldn't forget in an online meeting? And also, if you have any other tips you could share with us on the location of your, for example, with the position of your webcam and on dress code, etc.
Well, okay. So the first one, what's the difference between face-to-face meetings and online meetings, is what I looked at originally, where everything is taken away. All you can see is my face and maybe my hands when I wave them. I think that the environment that we work in has gone from a big meeting room into a tiny little square on a screen, and this changes how we communicate. And I think even something like your facial expression, I mean, you might be in a meeting and you can see someone like this, or and even that gives an impression of how well the meeting is going. So this is the biggest difference. There's no body language, there's no gesture. You can't pass things to each other. You have to focus really just on the faces on the screen. So facial expression and tone of voice, I think, are the biggest considerations, the biggest differences. That maybe your facial expression is not so important in a room full of people, but when everybody is on a screen, this is really important.
I would say as well, there are some differences that you see in approach from different age groups. So some people may find it more appropriate to play about with their backgrounds, or people who just like tech generally, maybe not necessarily younger people. But some people Some people find it enjoyable to have, oh, look at me, I have a spacecraft behind me, or I'm on a beach with the palm trees. And some other people may feel, do you know, actually, this is a very serious business situation, and therefore I don't think that that's appropriate. I think it's distracting. So I think generally establishing something neutral is going to be something that just won't distract anybody.
Yeah.
I would say as well, understanding that sometimes there are small pauses, making sure that you anticipate that you leave enough space for somebody else to speak, because they may have to mute or unmute themselves on their device and then might miss a very quick opportunity for them to have spoken. And also, if you're going to have a longer meeting, then make sure actually that you build in a little time to say, right, let's all just pause and make sure that people can get up and move around. People start actually to look like they're squirming. Maybe you think they're not interested in what you're saying, but actually probably they just really need to stretch. In the real world, you could get up and people could go for a comfort break or go and get a cup of tea from the front of the room or something. Try to build that in so that people feel that they can then refocus their energy and come again, and you'll get more out of your meetings.
Yeah, I agree.
Great, thank you very much. We've also just had another few questions about the London School of English in itself. So someone has asked, if I take a class with you, do I get a certificate? And also as well, do you accept group bookings? If I and some colleagues would like to take a weekly class for a couple of hours, is that possible?
So yes and yes. So we provide a certificate, a leavers certificate at the end of each course that somebody takes. We also do some examination certificates, so people, or exam preparation courses more accurately. So for IELTS, obviously then you would sit the IELTS exam. So we do the preparation for that. And we do a legal English and test of legal English skills course with an exam at the end as well. So we do our own certificates for all our participants, so everybody can take away something and prove that they've done the work. And we also do some accredited exams as well. Regarding group bookings, yes, we take people onto our, what we call our open public courses. So we have a mixture of participants. I think in the last 6 weeks, we've had 23 different nationalities, which is nice. We usually have up to 70 nationalities a year at the school. But even online, we still got 23 nationalities. But that doesn't mean that you can't make your own mini group, whether it's your friends, your family, or your colleagues, and tell us what you need. And we'll give you a quote for it. And I mean, every participant that joins us, we do a very thorough examination of what it is they want to achieve, what they want to get out of it. And we make sure that people are in a group of a similar level. So that would be another important thing, is to make sure, do you have common aims, and is your English at about the same level? There's a free online test on our website that you can take to see your English level if you're not sure.
Okay, great. Sorry, just out of interest, you mentioned about all the different nationalities you have. What are the main ones?
So we have our top, say, 12 markets would be Spanish, Japanese, Brazilian, Russian, German, Italian, Thai, who else? French, yeah, the French and the Swiss. I think that's, and the UK, but of course the UK is a real mixture. It's like a mini world. So we have, so although that's a market, that's then different nationalities. And we're getting more people from places like Sweden and Kazakhstan recently as well.
Okay, perfect. Just one more to close is again another one about the school. Do you provide lessons for children?
We don't actually. When we're face to face, we don't do any studies for anybody under 18. This summer we will be doing an online summer school for future leaders, so for 16 to 20-year-olds. But our usual admission is ages 18.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. Well, yeah, that's all of the questions that we've had. So thank you very much, Catherine and Joe. It's a really interesting and incredibly relevant presentation. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined us today. It's been great to have so many of you. If you've found it useful and you'd like to get in touch with the school or learn about more about the different options of study groups, all the details are on the screen there, and you can also find them at the website directly or on the Chamber's website too. And also do keep an eye on the events section of the Spanish Chamber website, where we have lots of other webinars coming up. So please do get involved with as many of those as you'd like to. So yeah, once again, thank you very much, Catherine and Joe, for joining us, and goodbye, everyone.
Right. Have a good
Bye-bye.
day. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.